The pitch hitter for the Phillies. Christian Pache.
I don't know how to do no home runs.
Fly ball, center field, pretty well hit. Myers going back toward the wall. It is gone!
Oh, I apologize.
Pache.
All right, welcome back to another video of us covering the Phillies. I was gonna save that little bit at the start for later in the video, but I figured why not get it out the way and open the episode up with a sort of explanation for what that was. And so essentially, when the Phillies were playing the Marlins, and obviously if you were watching the game, you knew that in that game we were down for quite the majority of the game actually. And Alec Bohm had just driven in JT, who was on second, and Bohm got to second himself, so we were only down one run. And you know, my dad's driving, we're in the car listening to the game, and we hear them say, "Oh, Christian Pache is coming in to pinch hit," and I didn't say anything at first, but my dad was the first one to go, "Who's he pinch hitting for?" And then that's when they go, "He's pinch hitting for Brandon Marsh." And I had the same thought as my dad in my head, but my dad was the one to say it aloud. He was like, why would he come in to pinch hit for Brandon Marsh? You know, like, we both kind of were in a sense doubting him in a bit, going, why are you bringing this guy in for this little clutch situation, you know? And next thing you know, Christian Pache goes on and hits a 2-run home run and helps the Phillies win the game. And me and my dad just kind of had to look at each other and go, apologies to Pache, man. I didn't know he had it like that. And instantly that made him and I think of the Shaquille O'Neal Hot Ones meme. And so I decided to put that together. I know my dad's going to get a good laugh out of it. But yeah, that is essentially what our reaction was to that game, where we were just like, what are you bringing in Pache for? What's he going to do? I guess a 2-run home run is what he's going to do, you know? And we'll get into more about him later in this episode. But to give a proper sort of intro, we have reached the All-Star break in the MLB. At this point in time, the Phillies... Sorry, I should have had this up before. The Phillies are 48 and 41, third place in the NL East. Right now, they have a 49.7% chance to make the postseason, according to Baseball Reference, and a 1.3% chance to win the World Series at this current time. From where we last left off, I think we left off like right at the end of June. We ended up losing that series to the Nationals, which I personally just couldn't believe that we lost that. There was a... Oh, well, before we get into all that, because I want to follow the format I've set up for myself when it comes to these. But so we've reached the All-Star break. We're third, like I mentioned, and we still got a lot more baseball to play. But as Philly fans know, I mean, we still got the rest of July and we got August, but usually these are where we as Philly fans start getting used to lowering our expectations in a way, because especially come September, for whatever reason, they just struggle in September. They explode in June, and then come September, like, there's always a bunch of either like collapses or they just struggle. But overall, there are, let's see, we had the series against the Nationals. We had we had the series against the Nationals, we had the series against the Rays, and we had the series against the Marlins. So let's start off with what was good from those series.
First pitch swinging.
Oh, and first pitch crushing!
So starting off with the good, I believe... Oh, it was in the Chicago series as well. I don't think the Chicago series, or at least two of the games, I don't think they were included in last week's episode, or from 2 weeks ago when we were covering, the end of June recap. But in that series with obviously the Cubs and part of the Nationals game, we saw some real good baseball. We obviously We swept the Cubs, which was real nice. I believe it was in that game we saw 2 homers from Brandon Marsh, which was real good to see. In the National Series, we saw Nick Castellanos hit a 3-run home run, which was nice. We exploded for 19 runs in one game against the Nationals, which was a positive to see, you know. Obviously, we'll get into the bads later. From this game, Zach Wheeler against the Nationals. I'm trying to find things. He was decent. I mean, he only went 5 innings, which wasn't what you want to see, you know. But he only let up 1 home run. 4 earned runs were allowed, though, but he got 6 strikeouts. It was a pretty decent game from him there. Like I mentioned, the hitting in that game was insane, you know, going out for 19 runs. And they did it pretty early on, too, you know. 6 runs scored in the 3rd, 4 in the 4th, 8 in the 5th. Pretty good game, you know. Kyle Schwarber went off that game. He had 4 RBIs. In that game specifically, looking at his stats for that game specifically, let's see. He had 1 home run, 4 RBIs, but he had 2 hits, and he scored 3 runs himself in that game. He only struck out once in 5 plate appearances, which is pretty surprising for Kyle Schwarber, you know. And I think the craziest part about that game was just that, what's it called? Oh, man. Sorry, I'm blanking out. I think the craziest part about that game was just, you know, how well they, like, did hitting-wise in it. You know, like how I mentioned, Schwarber only striking out once. Trey Turner only struck out once at 4 plate appearances. He had 2 hits and scored 3 runs. Nick Castellanos had 3 RBIs in that game, which was real nice. I think this was the one that I was mentioning. That I think it was this game specifically where he had that 3-run home run, which was, you know, nice to see. If I'm not confusing it with any other games, that's what I'm trying to double check. But yeah, he drove in 3 RBIs. He had 1 home run. He also had a double in that game. You know, Nick, probably our most or I don't even think it's probably at this point. Nick Castellanos is our most consistent player at this point, and that's why he's an all-star, you know. Real happy to see that, especially compared to last year, you know, with what went on with him. It's so nice to see him, like, back to form and all that. Bryce Harper drove in 2 RBIs in this game. Sorry. He had 5 at-bats and 0 strikeouts, so that was real nice to see from him. I think Josh Harrison, he might have had I don't know. I don't think it was this game that Josh Harrison got a home run. I know he got one, I think, in the Cubs series. Alec Boehm had a 2-run home run. Actually, I don't think this was the game that Nick Castellanos got that 3-run home run. I forget what game it was, but, you know, that was an overall nice game to see. Obviously, we'll get to the other 2 later. And then we get to what is probably, how would I put this, was probably our most stressful portion of this, like, latest series of games, especially because after the Nationals, we were on the road for 6 games. So we were going up against the Rays, and we know how good the Rays are, you know. At the time when we went to face them in our first game, I believe they were 57-31, you know, so definitely playing better and obviously a better team than us. But we did pretty well, you know. The first game I remember it was very methodical, slow paced type of game, you know. Like, you see the score, it's like 3-1, but if you were watching the game, you know, the Phillies scored 1 run in the second, and then they went a pretty long time without, like, getting another one. It took till the 7th and 8th to score those final 2 runs. But this was a game that was, like, very, like I said, methodical and almost strategic in a way. I know that doesn't really, like, make sense if, like given the whole thing, but, like, I mean strategic in the way that, like, it wasn't, like, the flashy plays or the home runs, you know. It was, like, carefully just, like, having some good precision batting and all that, you know. because I think each time we scored, it was because of I want to say it's because of a double, because I see here that JT had a double this game. Wait, no. Sorry. It's hard to read these charges. Bryce Harper had a double. Bryson Stott had a double. And Alec Boehm had a double, you know. And I remember Bryson Stott scoring one of them. Or like driving in someone, I believe. He got scored in because Alec Boehm hit a double. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. But yeah, this one was very slower paced. And it was also kind of expected because, you know, you look at the pitchers. It was Zach Eflin for the Rays. Aaron Nola for the Phillies. Now, this isn't the Zach Eflin during his time from the Phillies. This is, you know, a totally like crazy. I don't know. Like, I saw a lot of people say the same thing, that they found it pretty crazy the way Eflin's been playing for the Rays. You know, where he's really coming to his own and been really doing well for them. He has a 9-4 record. Obviously, he took the L in this game. You know, but like both men, they were going at it for a while with the pitching duel, you know. Nola ends up finishing with 7.1 innings pitched. He let up 5 hits, but only 1 earned run. He only walked 1 person. He struck out 12 people, and the 1 earned run he allowed was just a home run, you know. So, and it was a solo home run. And then Alvarado and Craig Kimbrell came in to finish off the game. Like I said, it was just crazy, you know. Like, that was a real good performance from Nola. Eflin did well. You know, he let up 2 earned runs, and then one of them came from one of the relievers, so that's how he got up through him. But in that game, you know, he went 7. He only let up 4 hits, and he struck out 9 guys. You know, that was real impressive to see from Eflin, and that was a real good pitching duel. You know, like, that was real fun to watch. Obviously, Nola got the win there, and then in the next game, this one was a bit more high scoring. This one was 8-4. We ended up winning, and this one you saw. This is where you saw like an explosion from so many people, you know, like Trey Turner had a home run this game, Nick Castellanos had a home run this game. You saw doubles from Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Bryson Stott, and then pitching wise, Taijuan Walker came in. He went 7 innings. He did allow 4 earned runs, but he struck out 8. He only let up 1 home run during all that. And I'll get into more about this game specifically later in the bad, because I do feel bad for Taijuan Walker here, because I was watching this game, and there was definitely some things that were out of his control, you know. And then the real confusing part, in a sense, that kind of helped us out was like this. I guess this was a bullpen game for the Rays, but it was real confusing because then the next game was also like a bullpen game for them, I believe. Like, I don't know. I was really genuinely confused at like why they did like back-to-back bullpen games, but maybe that's just how much depth they have. Because I think I remember from like a video I saw recently that said like they've had a lot of injuries at the pitching position. So the next game was also one, and this one we ended up winning 3-1. This one went to extra innings. I remember watching this game, and I just remember, like, I think it was the 7th or 8th, that I just remember telling my dad, yeah, this is a game that's going to go into extra innings, just because of the way these guys were hitting, you know, or like what they were doing at when they're at bats, you know. Like I mentioned him being our most consistent, but in this game, Nick Castellanos had 5 plate appearances, 0s all across the board with 2 strikeouts. Bryce Harper, 0s across the board, 3 strikeouts. Alec Boehm, 2 strikeouts. Bryson Stott, he only had 1 strikeout, but you look at all the other you look at all the other stats, he didn't have any walks, he didn't get any hits, you know. We got a home run from Derek Hall, who's back from injury. I think that's something new from last time, which is cool to see, you know, kind of give us some consistency, hopefully, at first base. I don't know, the lineup is going to be real confusing in a sense, and I'll get into that later with the looking forward portion. But to close this section off, Christopher Sanchez went 6 innings, only let up 1 earned run, and the earned run was a home run though. But still, that was pretty impressive to see him go those 6 innings for us, so that, you know, when time came, we only had to use 4 pitchers afterwards, whereas you look at the Rays, was that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pitchers they used in that one game. So that was pretty crazy. But yeah, we swept the Rays. I couldn't believe it. dumbfounded at the fact that we swept that team and that we performed as well as we did. Although, like I mentioned, the first and second game were a bit slower paced, and you definitely wanted to see a bit more quality at bats from a lot of the guys, but they get away with the sweep. And then, like I mentioned earlier at the start, we go to the Marlins and we win that first game thanks to Christian Pache coming in with a pinch hit home run, to get us that win. And Wheeler this game, he let up 3 earned runs and a home run, but he went 6. He struck out 7. Did pretty good for us. Jeff Hoffman and Craig Kimbrell obviously came in and did their things as well to help secure the game. But unlike earlier in the season, we really struggled this time against Sandy Alcantara. Only 1 earned run he allowed. He struck out 5. He did let up a home run, but he went 6.2. We did get 8 hits off of him, but it became the issue of struggling to score with runners in position. But we've been getting a lot better at it. Definitely. And definitely a lot of goods out of this team so far. But what about the bad?
First pitch swinging.
Oh, and first pitch crushing!
So, starting off with some of the bads, we go back to that Cubs series. And Brandon Marsh had that great game, the 2 home runs. And I was like, man, that was real nice, and all that. And then we get to the next game, and he's sitting, And I know this is become such a consistent thing that I talk about, but I just don't understand a lot of the thinking when it comes to the reasons to taking out Marsh or Stott at times. I get it, sometimes you want to rest these guys, but it just seems odd to me that after a great game like that, you kind of sit Marsh. And a lot of the times the reason behind it is always, again, the whole thing about batting against lefties, I believe it is. Or, yeah, I think it's lefties for him and Stott. And, I don't know. I understand how it can help out, obviously, in the case of, the Christian Pache home run. But at other times, I'm just confused by it. Because it's how can you expect someone to get better if you're not giving them that time, Obviously, they can practice with the team hitting against lefties, but if they don't get that in-game time to practice and see those pitches live, and not know, essentially, going against an opposing pitcher, not one of their own, it's if they don't get that in-game time, how can you expect them to improve, So it kind of baffles me that you sit them after such a strong game with the 2 home runs and all that. Another issue I mentioned, we're getting better at, scoring with runners or, driving in runners in scoring position. But at the same time, a lot of the times they get these runners on base and they hit into the double plays. And it annoys me because it's the Phillies themselves struggle to get double plays themselves. A lot of times we see, they get the easy ones, but sometimes it's I think they mentioned it at one point, the Phillies don't see a lot of double plays, but yet here they are hitting into a lot of double plays, with runners in scoring position, and it really kills the momentums a lot of times in these drives. Another thing to mention, I mentioned earlier about Taijuan Walker. He had an ERA under 1 in his past starts, and then in that one game, I mentioned he ended up letting up 4 runs, and they were credited to him. And I think the most baffling part was that there definitely was a play that literally seemed like an error to me, and they didn't charge it as one, so it ends up counting 2 runs towards them. And I think the play was on Trey Turner, and it just kind of annoys me that this guy was doing so well, he had an ERA under 1, and then defensive mishaps like that count against him, so that really kind of sucked to see. Obviously the whole national series as a whole sucked to see. We lost that real close one 2-1, which we really shouldn't have even lost, but we only scored 1 in that game, and that was in the second inning, and we went all that time without being able to do anything. We lost the last one where the team was here or there with it. I mean, they had some real good plays. Like I mentioned, I think this was the game where Nick Castellanos had that 3-run home run, maybe JT had a home run. You saw a lot of doubles in this game. But Ranger just wasn't his best in this game. He only went 5 innings. He struck out 5 people, but he let up 2 home runs when he previously hadn't. I don't know if it. I think in his previous couple of starts, he hadn't let up a home run. I don't know. I forget how many home runs he's let up on the season, but I know it's like, it's not a whole lot from what I remember, you know. Let's see. Home runs. He's only let up 6 this year, so it's not that bad. But yeah, this game, you know, he let up 2. He only went 5. Not what you want to see out of one of your starting pitchers. And speaking of not what you want to see out of some of your starting pitchers, well, first off, that second game against the Marlins, we end up losing 5-2. And it was really because we just let them get the momentum to start off with 3 scores in the first, you know. Just really isn't what you want to see. Again, some bad at-bats for a lot of guys. Just not what you want to see. Like JT having 2 strikeouts and 0s across the board with 4 plate appearances. Same thing for Josh Harrison. 4 plate appearances, 0s across the board and all that. And then you had Ranger again, only going 5.2 innings. He let up a home run. He walked 4 people, 3 earned runs allowed on him. He let up 8 hits, you know. Not what you want to see, but obviously the big talking point, as I said earlier, about not what you want to see out of your starting pitcher. Sunday's game versus the Marlins. What ends up happening? Oh, just Aaron Nola going 6 innings, striking out 6. Oh, that's not too bad, except he lets up 5 runs, 4 earned runs allowed, 8 hits, and the biggest thing, he lets up 3 home runs in that game. How do we go from 12 strikeouts, 1 home run, going 7 innings the previous game against the Rays, to going 6 and letting up 3 home runs against the Marlins, you know? I really just don't know what to think about Aaron Nola sometimes. Like, and it's the same thing with the entire team as a whole, but like, it's really Nola where I'm just like, dude, I don't know what to think about you anymore. I've been supporting you for the longest time. You know, you've been undisputedly our ace for like the longest time, you know. We brought in Wheeler to be a 1-2 ace combo with you. And I get it that sometimes the team doesn't help out. The team doesn't, you know, help him out. Like, you know, like that Atlanta series, you know, where I mentioned, you know, he struck out 5 people. He went 6. He wasn't allowing anything. And then the moment they took him out, that's when they scored. But then it's like you get games like this where it's like, dude, you're letting up 3 home runs. What is going on? You know, like talk to us, Nola. What is going on with you? He's close. He's 8 home runs away from breaking his season high. You know? And it's just like, my guy, what is going on? He's already passed his total for last year. Last year, he only let up 19 home runs. This year, it's 21. You look at the year before, he let up 26. And the year before that, oh, well, that was the shortened season. He let up 9. But then the season before that, it was 27. So he's been slowly but surely, like, increasing his numbers. Last year was a drop, thankfully. But then it's like, here we are again, 21 home runs. And it's just like, what's going on with you, my guy? Like, what is it that we need to fix within you, you know? Like, is it the pitch clock that's messing you up? Is it something else that's messing you up? Is it mentality and all that, you know? I just want the best for the guy, and it's just like, it really sucks to see him like get these sort of slump games like this where it's like, you know, 3 home runs, only go 6 innings when we're used to getting like 7. Sometimes, you know, he'll even push through and give us like 8 sometimes. Like, I know Wheeler gave us 8 one time. And then, I mean, the team just didn't help too much any better, you know. Kyle Schwarber, 4 at-bats, 0s across the board, 2 strikeouts. Same thing with Trey Turner with 1 strikeout. Nick had a walk, but he had 3 strike. At all 3 plate appearances, he struck out. I don't know. It's like, it was real tough watching that Marlins series. And it was like, you just wish you saw better, but, you know, here we are. We're, like I mentioned at the start of the video, we're 48 and 41. Where do we go from here?
First pitch swinging.
Oh, and first pitch crushing!
So, as we look forward, we passed the All-Star break. As I mentioned in the last video, we have the Padres for 4 games, and that's at home. We have the Brewers for 3 games at home, and we have Cleveland for 3 games, and that's at Cleveland. Now we've been doing pretty good on the road, and especially in comparison to at home many times. But so looking forward, where does this team go? Well, with the way the Padres have been playing, I mean, it looks like sometimes they're doing well, sometimes they don't, kind of like us. So that one's a real toss-up. My hope is we at least split the series, but I hope we win the overall series. Same thing with the Brewers. I wouldn't want to. That one you can't split. Obviously, I would want to see them come away with the win. I would more than welcome a sweep, just like we did with the Rays and the Cubs. Same thing with Cleveland, but I'm being sort of, mindful and thoughtful. I just want at least for us to win those series, get some meaningful wins, really build ourselves a blanket, especially because with these past 2 losses to the Marlins, it was something I mentioned in the last episode. I want to build us a blanket so that when we go on a slump, we're not dropping all these games and dropping out the wild card spot, which I believe we currently are in. I believe we have in the wild card standings, I believe. Oh wait, no, those 2 games against the Marlins really screwed us up, because now Cincinnati's ahead of us, Arizona's ahead of us, LA's ahead of us, Miami's ahead of us, and Atlanta. Why the heck is Atlanta in the wild card standings? They're leading the division. I don't know. This thing doesn't make sense. Oh well, hold on. Oh wait, yeah. With those losses, I'm reading this correctly. Sorry, that was the standings for the playoffs, and then there's a wild card. So the Giants are ahead of us now, and Cincinnati's obviously ahead of us by 2 games, because they're 50 and 41. We're 48 and 41. But yeah, with those 2 losses, it really hurts. So I want us to start getting like more wins that build that sort of cushion for us, so that if we slump at any point, it's not drastic. Right now we're 7 games above 500, I believe. So hopefully with the Padres series, you kind of add to that, and especially the Brewers and Guardians series. Oh man, I might have called them the Cleveland Indians earlier. That might be on me, my fault. I forgot they're the Guardians now. Yeah, you're hoping you get more wins there to sort of build that. And I guess the closing thoughts are similar to the last video, where it's just, do we think the Phillies make any moves at the deadline? I don't really know. I think we maybe make some pitching moves for the bullpen, maybe. That way we can be more confident in bullpen games, like, with the Rays having like that plethora of pitchers to go through or to go to, maybe. Or maybe we make a play for a 5th starter, so we don't have to use as many bullpen pieces. But I really don't know, especially because I see a lot of people saying they might get a first baseman, they might do this and that. And to me personally, I don't see it happening, because this lineup would just be way too confusing. Like, everyone's trying to figure out where you're gonna place Bryce Harper. Everybody's basically written off Rhys Hoskins, who I know he probably likely won't return for this season, but like, if he's still here next season, it just gets even more confusing, because if you want to move Bryce to first base, and next year if Rhys is still here, where are you playing him at? I forgot to mention it during the bad, but Schwarber's been, I don't think it's bold to say he's been a liability in the outfield. And a lot of people like the idea of Pache and Marsh, playing the left and center field, which I wouldn't mind either, because it's like those 2 guys have been doing real well. I don't know why a lot of people don't like Brandon Marsh for whatever reason, but he does real well out there for us, And I think him and Pache could do real well in that outfield. And although we're paying him a lot, if we slide Harper to first and he starts playing, mostly every day, I wouldn't mind Schwarber being the DH. Because, I don't know, there's just so many plays that he lets up in that outfield, and you're just like, come on, my guy. I want to see better from that outfield position, you know. I want to see better from that defense. And that's not even taking into account all the prospects we have, because I know we apparently have a prospect who plays in like the center left field, and now people are like, man, what do we do if when we want to call up this guy, we still have Marsh and Pache, you know? Now, the good part is that Pache and Marsh don't mind switching out. I saw a real cool story where they said, you know, they don't take any offense to having to share playing time. And whenever Marsh goes up to bat, when he comes back, he talks it over with Pache. Whenever Pache goes up to bat and he comes back, he talks it over with Marsh. You know, they have a real cool sort of friendship there. So it's like they don't mind switching out. So maybe that you can play that into your benefit, you know, and you know, maybe it won't be so bad having to like switch him out and sit Marsh a couple times, you know, as much as sometimes it doesn't make sense to me. You know, if you're going to use that to your advantage, then hey, I'll take it at this point if it means more wins. But again, I would probably likely want to see the two of them playing together because I don't know, man, Schwarber just isn't doing it in that outfield for me. And again, if you trade for someone, where are you going to stick them? Because if you trade for a first baseman, Harper's basically like last year. Harper's stuck DHing for, you know, the rest of the season, the rest of however long you bring that person in for. Because are you only bringing them in as a 1-year rental to really push for the playoffs and World Series again? I just don't know anymore, you know. So you just kind of got to look forward. You know, All-Star break is here. Have fun watching those, the home run derby happen. Have fun with the All-Star game. And we just watch out for whatever trades happen. Should be fun.